In March of 1919, the people of New Orleans did something no city in America has ever done before or since. On a single night, thousands of families threw open their windows, dragged out pianos and gramophones, and filled the streets with jazz music, not to celebrate, but because a killer told them to. A killer who signed his letter as a demon from hell. This is the true story of the Axeman of New Orleans, one of America's most terrifying unsolved serial murders, a case that predates the Zodiac and rivals Jack the Ripper for sheer, unexplainable horror. Between May 1918 and October 1919, an unidentified attacker crept through the sleeping city night after night, and to this day, nobody knows who he was, why he chose his victims, or why he simply vanished. It began on the night of May 23, 1918, in the uptown neighborhood of New Orleans. Joseph Maggio and his wife Catherine, Italian immigrant grocers, were asleep above their small store when someone broke in through the back door. The intruder had chiseled a panel clean out of the wood, slipping inside without waking a soul. He found a straight razor in the house and used it to slash both their throats. Then, almost as an afterthought, he picked up an axe that belonged to the couple and beat them with it before disappearing into the night. Catherine was nearly decapitated. Joseph's brothers, who lived next door, found the bodies the next morning. No one had heard a single scream. The killer had left the axe behind at the scene, soaked in blood, a detail that would become his signature. He never brought his own weapon. He always used what he found inside his victims' homes, as if he wanted to make the murder personal, intimate, almost ritualistic. Police were baffled. There was no theft, no clear motive, nothing missing from the house. Just two people dead in their bed and a broken door panel as the only clue. For weeks, the city held its breath, wondering if it was an isolated tragedy. It wasn't. On August 10, 1918, a barber named Joseph Romano was attacked in the same way, throat cut, skull bashed with a blunt object, the killer fleeing before anyone could catch more than a glimpse. Romano's nieces, sleeping in the next room, woke to the commotion and caught sight of a large man in a dark suit and hat disappearing into the darkness. He died 2 days later without ever identifying his attacker. By now, a pattern was forming, and it was one that terrified New Orleans' Italian immigrant community in particular. Most of the victims were Italian grocers, small business owners who lived above or beside their shops. The attacks always happened at night. The killer always entered through a door panel he'd carved out with a chisel. And he always left the murder weapon behind, dripping with blood, as if signing his work. Newspapers began calling him the Axeman, and panic spread through the city like wildfire. Grocers began sleeping with weapons under their pillows. Families installed heavy locks and bars on their doors. Some stayed awake through the night in shifts, terrified that they would be next, with no idea what made one home a target and another safe. Then, just as suddenly as it began, the attacks stopped. 7 months of silence passed, long enough for the city to exhale, for people to convince themselves that the nightmare was finally over. They were wrong. On March 10, 1919, the Axeman crossed the river to the town of Gretna and struck the Cortimiglia family. Charles Cortimiglia and his wife Rosie were both brutally attacked and left for dead, but they survived. Their 2-year-old daughter Mary did not. It was the killing of a child that pushed the city's fear past its breaking point. And 3 days later, something happened that turned this case from a string of murders into one of the strangest chapters in American crime history. On March 13, 1919, the Times-Picayune newspaper received a letter, allegedly written by the Axeman himself. In it, the writer claimed to be a supernatural entity, not human at all, and warned that he intended to kill again the following Tuesday night. But he offered the city an escape. Any home where jazz music was playing loudly when the clock struck the hour of the attack would be spared. Any home that was silent would risk his wrath. It should have been dismissed as a cruel hoax. Instead, an entire city of hundreds of thousands of people took it seriously. On the night of March 19, 1919, New Orleans came alive in a way it never had before. Jazz halls were packed to bursting. Restaurants blasted music through open doors. Families who couldn't afford instruments or record players crowded into the homes of neighbors who could. People danced in the streets until dawn, driven by pure terror, refusing to let their houses fall silent. That night, in a city obsessed with an unseen killer's demands, not a single person was attacked. Whether it was coincidence, or whether the letter was even real, no one has ever been able to prove. But the legend of the Axeman's jazz ultimatum has outlived almost every other detail of the case. The killings didn't end there. Attacks and suspected attacks continued into the following months, and the death toll by the time it was over is still debated by historians, with estimates ranging from 4 confirmed deaths to as many as a dozen victims connected to the Axeman across the wider Louisiana region. Then, in October 1919, the murders simply stopped again, this time for good. No arrest was ever made. No confession was ever confirmed. One theory points to a man named Joseph Mumfre, a career criminal with ties to organized crime who had been in and out of prison during years that eerily lined up with the gaps in the Axeman's killing pattern. In December 1920, Mumfre was shot dead on a Los Angeles street by a woman named Esther Pepitone, the widow of one of the Axeman's alleged final victims. She claimed she saw him fleeing her husband's murder scene and had hunted him down for revenge. She was tried for his killing and acquitted, but no hard evidence was ever found to definitively prove Mumfre was the Axeman at all. Others believe the case was never one single killer, but several unrelated crimes stitched together by a terrified press and an even more terrified public. To this day, walking through the old neighborhoods of New Orleans, past the same shotgun houses and grocery storefronts that stood over 100 years ago, there is no marker, no memorial, nothing to indicate that a killer once moved silently from door to door here, choosing his victims for reasons no one has ever understood. Some residents say that on quiet nights, if you listen closely near the old grocery stores, you can still hear the faint sound of jazz music drifting from empty houses. Whether the Axeman was a man, a myth, or something the letter claimed he was, the truth is that in 1919, an entire city played music to survive the night. And whoever, or whatever, was listening out there in the dark, got exactly what he wanted.